We generate ideas, we produce insights, we hold sessions to brainstorm. Listen to the verbs we use when we talk about thinking. Every one of them belongs on a factory floor. They paint a very specific, unquestioned picture. The human mind is a workshop, and thoughts are the physical products it pumps out. Under this model, you are the manufacturer. You own and operate the heavy machinery inside your head. Good thinking is high output. Bad thinking is a supply chain problem, and whatever rolls off the assembly line belongs to you because you built it. But there is a problem with this picture. It does not survive 10 minutes of honest attention. The factory model is an illusion that traps us in a false understanding of our own minds. To see how cognition actually works, we have to look closely at what happens when a thought arrives. Try an audit on yourself right now. Sit still, pause your internal monologue, and watch the exact chronological order of how your next thought forms. You will not catch yourself making it. This diagram shows the sequence you will actually observe. First, a thought appears, fully formed. Second, your consciousness registers it. And then third, always third, the ego steps in to claim ownership. My idea. Look what I made. We feel incredibly close to our thoughts, but intimacy is not authorship. We are simply arriving slightly late to concepts that are already underway. Look at the grammar we use every day. We say, I have an idea. Now look at an identically built sentence. I have a rainbow. Nobody who says they have a rainbow claims they built it. The rainbow is definitely not inside them. To have a rainbow means standing in the correct position, under the right sky, at the right angle, to receive a pre-existing condition of light. Now, you might point out that we can put a person in a scanner and literally watch their brain tissue light up when they think, and that physical correlation is entirely real. But consider this split-screen graphic. On the left, a perfectly functioning radio. Open it up and you'll find circuitry lighting up in exact sync with the music. But no matter how closely you look, you will not find the orchestra broadcasting the signal on the right. The hardware channels the signal. It does not invent it. The physical state of the brain is a manifestation of receiving a concept. It is not the factory producing it. Take the content of any thought, the concept of fairness, or the color blue. These are not events that happen. They are eternal conditions. Paint 1,000 canvases, but you will never use up the world's supply of blue. The condition itself is always entirely stationary. To understand why, look at this Flatlander diagram. Imagine a 2D creature's flat universe, sliding downward and intersecting a stationary sphere. A circle appears, grows, and vanishes. He'd report a visitation, but nothing visited. The sphere never moved. We make the exact same geometric mistake when we talk about human cognition. We say an idea came to me, or struck me, or descended, but the concepts are standing still. What actually moves is you. Your orientation turns across a day, and you cross paths with stationary conditions. Nothing came to you. You came around. The phenomenon of inspiration requires no muse and no magical sender. It is simply the mechanics of an observer and motion intersecting with an eternal, standing structure. If we aren't manufacturing thoughts, we need new verbs to describe what we are actually doing. The first is to witness, acting as the space where a thought appears. The second is to discern, evaluating a thought without automatically endorsing it. The persistence of a recurring thought does not make it destiny. It simply means your mental attention keeps passing over the same coordinates. Destructive obsessions persist just as easily as brilliant insights. That brings us to the third verb, select. In the gap between a thought arriving and you taking action, you make a choice. Out of the thousands of conditions you cross today, you choose which ones to accompany and which to let go. And finally, the fourth verb, mark. This image shows a physical survey marker hammered into a ridge. That is the action you take to bring a concept into the real world. You write the page. You speak the apology out loud. Manufacture is not on the list. Our true job description is to filter the conditions we cross and to leave a permanent mark in relation to them. There is a cost to this philosophy. You lose the flattering, grandiose title of being the author of your best ideas. But look at the massive psychological relief on the other side of the ledger. If you did not manufacture your genius, you also did not manufacture your darkest, most intrusive thoughts. Like this storm cloud rolling over a barren landscape, they are just passing phenomena. That late-night dread, that cruel impulse, those are not confessions of a dark character leaking out of a mental factory. They are harsh cognitive weather that you temporarily crossed. True character is defined by what happens after the arrival. You are not responsible for what appears in you. You are judged solely by what you select and what you choose to mark. Most of us do not think, we recite. We run a loud internal tape and mistake the volume for depth. Real discipline requires mental hospitality. We have to get quiet enough that something other than our own voice can land. True thinking is an act of listening. We do not manufacture thoughts, we relate to them. And our ultimate creative power lies entirely in where and how we pay attention.